All right. I believe I am set. I never know what's going to happen here because I hop in, start live streaming, and all of a sudden I'm seeing YouTube is making some changes or there's something new to the stream settings. It's either YouTube side or StreamYard side. I'll have to take some time later on and check that out because it's like I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, I believe I am live, coming to you live and direct, to borrow the phrase from Max Headroom. Let's see. Oh, right off the bat. Hello, Ray Lucard. Very cool to see you in the chat. Yes, Knightfall Saga has been on my brain for the past 30 years, he says. Obsessed with Azrael's Batman armor. Yeah, it was something else. It was the second biggest storyline from DC at that time because everybody, of course, knows all about the death of Superman. It's like, yay, that's been covered time and time again. It's been hashed and rehashed in the animated series and live action. Well, give or take varying degrees of adaptation. I had to wet my whistle there to go on here. Let's see. I was going to touch on Knightfall when I was doing my live stream about gimmicks, comic book gimmicks from the early 90s. But the biggest gimmick story-wise was the death of Superman. And I wanted to touch on Batman Knightfall separate from that. It is quite involved. What I'm going to do here is, well, let me fire up my webcam here. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see, do this and do that right there. There we go. So make my desk a little bit more presentable and all right, get a little comfy here. All right, Batman Knightfall. I was trying to do some show notes for this, but then I decided it's just as easy to pull up the DCfandom.com DC database and share with you all what it says about the storyline and the individual comics. Because what I'll do is I will touch on the plot synopsis for each little comic because it's pretty well involved. It's 19 issues long, pretty nice storyline. There are some bits I like about this better than the Death of Superman storyline because taking out Superman is one thing. Taking out Batman is a whole nother thing entirely. It's like you have to wear away Batman on a completely different level to get to him, to squash him, to defeat him. And that is what Bane, the big bad here, Bane, that's what he did. It took him a bit, but he managed to run Batman ragged. Actually, let's start off with I have the Wikipedia page pulled up, but I don't like using the Wikipedia. I'm not a big fan of referencing things from Wikipedia. I'll touch on the writing behind it. Let's reading from Wikipedia. The story takes place over approximately 6 months. Bruce Wayne, Batman, suffers burnout and is systematically assaulted and crippled by a super steroid enhanced genius named Bane. Wayne is replaced as Batman by an apprentice named John Paul Valley, aka Azrael, who becomes increasingly violent and unstable, tarnishing Batman's reputation. Eventually, Wayne is healed through paranormal means and reclaims his role as Batman. Knightfall resulted in long-term ramifications for the Batman continuity as Batman's trust from the police, the public, and his fellow superheroes had to be rebuilt due to Azrael's violence, which is a completely separate story arc, separate from Knightfall. I believe it was, well, let me scroll down here because it's like Knightfall, Night Quest, Night's End. It's like three major story arcs behind this. Again, from Wikipedia, the entire Knightfall storyline took over a year to complete, and the comic book series. In later years, the comics were reprinted several times, though never in full, as the Night Quest, the Search story arc, had not been collected until the second omnibus edition in 2017. Huh. Yep, yep. Ray Lucard saying, I watched many documentaries about this. Batman wouldn't quit, and that was his downfall. Yeah. Also, you had somebody who in Bane was both brain and brawn. He wasn't just, he just didn't outdo Batman physically. He outsmarted him, he out manipulated him and whatnot. Let's dig right into this first issue of it. I'm going to set these aside or off to the side here and going to the DCFandom.com database. Batman Volume 1, 492. Just going to read a quick little synopsis of it. So the main events for 492 happen in 491, issue 491. But everything started off, as you can see here, it's got the little number 1 here, and each one is numbered 1, 2, 3, all the way to 19. But and this one being the first one out of the chute, well, following the massive Arkham breakout, reading from DCFandom.com here. The Mad Hatter is the first to make a move. He breaks into a haberdashery, stealing several hats. And go him. He is observed by Bird and his Falcon Talon. Unnoticed by Bird, the Hatter captures the Falcon and places a homing device on it. Let's see. Checking out this artwork here. Yeah, there he is right there. The Hatter invites several criminals to join his tea party under the pretense of giving them the opportunity to kill Batman. He forces them to put on his hats, which are fitted with voice-activated mind control devices. He sends Film Freak out to find out who released them from the confinement, because he doesn't appreciate being used. Film Freak uses a homing device placed on Talon to find Bane's hideout. Batman instructs Robin to be backup only, remaining out of the fight. However, Batman is obviously unwell, and Robin is filled with concern. The Caped Crusader bursts into the tea party and attacks Hatter and his thralls. He questions the Hatter about Bane's involvement, but the Hatter doesn't recognize the name. Bane shouts, "I am Bane," into the Film Freak's transmitter just before killing him. The Hatter sends his thugs after Batman, and when he trains a gun on the hero's back, Robin leaps into action, saving his mentor's life. So yeah, this starts off. Well, there's Bane right there. We never had a very good adaptation of Bane, certainly not in live action. was not quite happy with the appearance of Bane and the animated series. There he is right there. He's got like this serum that increases his strength, and he's quite intelligent to boot. So he's able to out manipulate Batman. He orchestrates the release of all the criminals out of Arkham Asylum, which also adds to the predicament for Batman, having to run himself ragged, go through and capture all the criminals. So this book, let's see. All right, Doug, the writer, Doug Moench, Moench, however you pronounce that. The artist is Norm Breyfogle. Colorist is Adrian Roy. Lettering by Richard Starrings. So that was the first issue. Let me back up a bit and talk about the writing on this because it was pretty interesting. I had read a little snippet about it earlier and thought it was quite interesting about how this story came to pass. Let's see, where was that? I had just read that shortly before coming on. It was interesting that the writing team behind the storyline. Oh, here it is. Going back to the Wikipedia. Let's see. According to Wikipedia, the initial idea for the character of Azrael stemmed from a two-part story idea pitched by Detective Comics writer Peter Milligan circa 1991 as he was leaving that position. After line editor Dennis O'Neil decided to expand it into a larger epic, he and the Batman line writers Chuck Dixon, Doug M. Moench, ever how you pronounce that. I have no idea. Anyway, I'll just call him Doug M. And writer Alan Grant convened an authors summit over a long weekend to flesh out the details and plot points. At the same time, the Superman team was planning for a similar character-altering storyline, namely the death of Superman, and neither they nor the Batman group initially had any knowledge of each other's plans. Dennis O'Neil denies the Knightfall storyline was in any way inspired by the death of Superman storyline and states that it was already in development by as much as 3 years, saying that if the Batman staff had known, the storyline would likely have been pushed down a year. Which is pretty interesting because when you think about 91, 92, 93, that period of time, there are some big things coming out of DC and Marvel, and of course, Image and Valiant. But for the death of Superman and Batman Knightfall to come out almost at the same time was something else. I mean, that was a pretty big, two big story arcs for DC. That's like a 1-2 punch for their two biggest characters, Batman and Superman. And we have Detective Comics 659, issue 2 in New York. This is by Chuck Dixon and Norm Breyfogle. And let's see here. Yes, Chuck Dixon handled the writing. Norm Breyfogle, guest artist. Adrian Roy, the colorist. Tim Harkins, the letterer. And Scott Peterson and Dennis O'Neil, the editors. So all the stuff still going on here. I forget where it was that Robin, I think, at some point started protesting Batman running himself ragged. As a storyline goes on, more and more people start noticing the raggedness, the deterioration in Batman as he's going almost nonstop to try to stop the crime wave, to try to recapture all the criminals that were released from Arkham Asylum. Let me go to the synopsis for this particular issue. Dun, dun, dun. Detective Comics Batman. As I click on the right tab, yeah, here we go. 659. Detective Comics featuring Batman, Volume 1, 659, synopsis. While the inmates of Arkham Asylum run wild after being freed by Bane, ventriloquist strikes up a friendship with Amygdala. I know I walked all over that name. Anyway, in hopes of finding Scarface, the ventriloquist has temporarily satisfied his need for a puppet by putting a sock on his hand. But after testing it out in public, he decides it's not the most intimidating choice. Batman and Robin investigate the scene where Film Freak was murdered by Vane. When the police arrive, they head off in search of the next Arkham inmate they can capture. As they get into the Batmobile, Robin notices a falcon flying overhead. They argue about the motives of the inmate. Robin once again warns Batman about his health. I'll skip down a bit. After a long struggle, Batman barely manages to knock out one of the criminals. Ventriloquist decides that finding Scarface is more important than killing Batman and escapes. Batman returns to the Batmobile to find that Robin is gone, and then another police radio announcement saying Mr. Zsasz is loose in a school. Carries on right into back to Detective. So this was crossing from Batman to Detective Comics to what else was there? Showcase 93. So it kind of tied in multiple Batman comics from Detective Comics to some standalone or secondary series arcs. Here we have Batman 493. I clicked on the tab for that to give you a quick once over of the story synopsis. All right, synopsis for Batman Knightfall number 3, Batman 493, and this issue right here. Batman is aware that his strength and resolve are fading with every escaped Arkham Asylum inmate he encounters. He knows that Bane has orchestrated this situation to wear him down. Victor Zsasz has found his way to a boarding school where he plans to add some of the girls to his tally of kills, many of whom escaped out at the back, but there are still 15 or so trapped inside with the serial killer. And after failing to hear from the officer he sent inside, Stan Ketch sends another officer in. Dun, dun, dun. As we flip through, getting a look at the artwork here. Reading from the synopsis again, real quick. Batman arrives, telling the police to stand down. Bullock comments to Montoya that Batman isn't looking well, but she is nowhere to be found. Batman activates his night vision, and when he hears a sound from a classroom, he opens the door to only find a pair of hands around his neck. His assailant turns out to be a Robin who has come up against his mentor's wishes. Robin reveals that he's met Bird, one of Bane's lackeys. Batman allows him to chase Bird so long as he doesn't directly confront Bane. Zsasz returns to his hostages, preparing to select two new victims. The girls attack him, but are mostly paralyzed with fear when he easily overpowers them. Suddenly, Renee Montoya appears in the doorway with her gun drawn, trained on the killer. Flipping through this to kind of share the art with y'all. I think this is the first point in the storyline where Batman starts to lose it as he confronts Zsasz and pretty much starts beating the crap out of him. He's called off by one of the detectives, Montoya, and I believe I think they catch Zsasz, but it's to the point where Detective Montoya has to call off Batman. It's like, don't go too far. You've gone far enough beating the crap out of him. That is like the first point where the police start to notice that Batman is running ragged. As I silence my phone here. Next up is Detective Comics number 660. Chuck Dixon handling the writing again, with Jim Ballant. What is he doing? He's the guest penciler. Scott Hanna is doing the inking, and Adrian Roy the coloring. John Costanza doing the lettering. And we get more appearances of Bane in this one. So I skip over to the next tab to check out the story synopsis for this one. This one involves Killer Croc. As the synopsis goes, in the sewers of Gotham City, Killer Croc waits and searches for Bane, craving vengeance for his broken limbs. Meanwhile, Robin has followed Bird back to the place where Bane and his other minions are discussing their next move. Bird explains that even though Batman has only faced two minor Arkham Asylum escapees, he is clearly so physically exhausted that he can barely function. Bane, however, decides that Batman must continue to run the gauntlet and test the extremes of his endurance. In this way, he hopes to learn all he can about the man who he came to Gotham to destroy. Robin realized that all the dangers and threats that he and Batman have faced recently more were orchestrated by Bane as a test. He tries to contact Batman, but the Dark Knight has collapsed, exhausted at the scene of his recent apprehension of Mr. Zsasz. Or when Bane makes his exit, Robin follows, but he loses his prey in a rail tunnel. Suddenly, Bane appears behind him and he is captured. So this is pretty neat. This is a direct confrontation between Robin and Bane after Batman warned him not to. It's pretty interesting. Then we get Killer Croc getting involved in it because he didn't appreciate Bane attacking him. And they fight. The walkway they're on collapses from all the fighting between Bane and Killer Croc. And Robin falls into one of the waterways. Knightfall 5, Batman 494. Dun, 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 dun. Synopsis, real quickly. As Robin is dragged through the sewers of Gotham City by a strong current, he struggles to find a way to avoid drowning. While passing under a narrow archway, he stretches his staff across the gap to keep from being sucked further into Gotham Harbor. However, in order to keep him from simply drowning there instead of elsewhere, he uses his bat rope to grip a nearby walkway and pull himself to safety. Meanwhile, Bane and Killer Croc are swept away into the harbor. Aha! Hello, Dad Man. How there? Howdy. Oh, this is also the issue where we get a Joker showing up. I mean, if Bane, Killer Croc, and all the others weren't enough, we get the Joker, of course, showing up. Let's see. And of course, we have Scarecrow. So this is a pretty good issue. It's Joker, Scarecrow, and a few others getting into it. Ah, Dad Man saying you will be driving. Okay, cool. Ah, Ray shared the link on X. Cool, thank you. So let's see. Let's go back to the synopsis real quick. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Elsewhere, Scarecrow bursts into the 8-Ball bar, tortures one of Joker's former gang members with this fear toxin. The thug spills that the Joker plans to use Stirk's abilities to kidnap and control Commissioner Gordon into fouling up the Gotham Police Department and run the city into the ground. Dun, 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 skipping down and around some. Joker wonders why he bothered to partner with Stirk when he is confronted by the Scarecrow, who wonders the same thing. The Scarecrow is jealous and offended that Stirk was chosen to partner with the Joker rather than himself, a master of fear. Joker seems open to cooperation and agrees to the Scarecrow's new plan to terrorize the mayor in order to gain control over Gotham, rather than kidnapping Gordon. And of course, we see Batman near collapse once again as he's pretty much run ragged. Scarecrow releases his fear gas on the mayor, which leads right into the next issue. Getting a quick drink here. Okay, I want to thank you all, whether you're joining me live in a chat or simply lurking, or you catch this on a replay. Thank you very much. We are back to Detective Comics featuring Batman, issue 661, number 6 in the Knightfall story arc. I'll click over the tab on it for its plot synopsis. City on fire. The Joker and Scarecrow continue to terrorize the mayor into making various irresponsible phone calls. At a loss for something new to cause chaos in Gotham City, the pair eventually decide to force the mayor to tell the president of the firefighters union that he is thinking of cutting the rolls. The irony of choosing the firefighters union to target the firefighters union as a target is apparent in the rampage of Firefly, who has set fire to Elmo's Pier, an amusement park. Batman and Robin arrive on scene. Batman tries to persuade his mentor to let him help. Robin is becoming increasingly concerned for Batman's physical and mental health, having gone days now at this point without sleep. And again, Batman tells Robin to stay in the car. That's pretty neat right there. Batman and Firefly get engaged in a fight. Let's see, skipping down. All right. Skipping down to the last bit. Excuse me. Skipping back down to the last bit of the plot line, we have Riddler. Look like Riddler there getting involved as well. Yep. See, Robin starts doing his stuff, investigating Firefly. Batman finds Firefly at the former Majestic Theater. The arsonist claims that he has no interest in fighting with Batman and attempts to escape, but the Dark Knight leaps after him, and they both tumble down into the flames together. Look at that. And thus continues on into Batman Comics 495. So I switch over to the synopsis for this issue, called Strange Deadfellows. Batman allows Firefly to escape in order to save both their lives, wrapping his bat rope around the villain's leg and letting Firefly's glider pull him out of the fire. Firefly realizes that he's towing his enemy and cuts the wire, sending Batman hurtling toward the ground. Batman survives by gripping onto a fire escape as he falls. At the same time, John Paul Valley decides to go out on the streets in costume, which is, there's an excellent panel of Bruce Wayne showing really haggard, really worn out. So this is setting a toll on Batman. Back at the Wayne Manor, Alfred reminds Bruce Wayne that he ought to attend a Wayne Foundation dinner, lest people realize that he is Batman. Bruce agrees, knowing the dinner will likely be a target for mayhem, and he will need to be there in one mask or another. That night, Poison Ivy prepares her plan to disrupt the dinner while Bane and his men stake out the dinner's location, hoping to see what happens with Ivy's plan. Meanwhile, the Joker and Scarecrow force the mayor to send the Gotham City Police Department on a wild goose chase. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, skipping down a bit. Once the truck arrives at its destination, Ivy instructs the men to form a line so they can relieve them of their valuables and money. Bruce takes the opportunity to sneak off and get into costume as Ivy prepares to kiss and thereby infect her victims. Batman tosses a batarang into her face. In response, she summons some previously infected goons to attack him. Batman becomes increasingly exhausted with each foe that he takes down. And there they are fighting right there. As he finally I think this leads up to the Joker finally getting involved. Meanwhile, at the police department, believing that Mayor is being held captive by the Joker and Scarecrow, the mayor's voice leads them to a bomb which goes off moments later, killing many police officers. Back at his hideout, Bane hopes that Batman can withstand the threat of the Joker in order that he can face Bane finally. Which leads up to Detective Comics 662. And Ray Lacard's saying, it's too bad we didn't get an animated version of this with the cast of Batman animated series. Yeah, it's too bad. Like I said, we've seen so many adaptations of the Death of Superman storyline, but we've never had this adapted. This would be a pretty big storyline to adapt. It's pretty interesting because it shows how one person, namely Bane, can out-manipulate, outthink Bruce Wayne Batman and get the better of him, wearing him out mentally, physically, and ultimately breaking his back. All right, switching tabs here for the synopsis for Detective Comics number 662, Burning Questions, the name of this issue. I'll be skipping around. The Riddler's goons decide they've had enough of waiting for him to concoct riddles relating to the next big score. They decide to take on the job themselves without him and chase him out onto the streets in a rain of bullets. Dejected and disappointed, the Riddler wonders why his riddles haven't received any response from the GCPD. It's like, they're right there. So all you do is talk, Riddler, as one of his goons tells him. In the Batcave, Robin works off some of his frustrations regarding the fact that Batman allowed him to do all of the footwork for the Firefly case, but made him sit out on the bust. Bored, Robin begins channel surfing on the Batcomputer's TV monitor, much to Alfred's disgust. He happens upon the Casey Josie show where a former Arkham Asylum employee, Dr. Simpson Flander, is hawking his new pop psychology book. When Casey takes questions from the audience, one audience member stands up and begins asking riddles. It's the Riddler in disguise, and he has rigged himself with dynamite. Robin heads to the studio where the show is being filmed as fast as he can. Meanwhile, Batman once again looks like he finds himself back in with Firefly. I think, yeah, this is the issue where Batman finally captures Firefly, I do believe. And the police capture the Riddler, or Robin helps capture the Riddler. As I am trying to turn the strange paper. There we go. It looks like, who is that? The Huntress, I'm guessing. Huntress shows up. Yep, that's Huntress. We're in the last bit of the synopsis with the Riddler's former gang broken into the post office and stolen a fortune in blank money orders, stamps, and cash. They make their getaway. However, some come face to face with the Huntress, who apprehends them all without much effort. With Firefly captured, Batman keeps count of the 8 minor Arkham escapees that he's recaptured, but worries that he won't have the stamina to face Riddler, Scarecrow, and Joker, not to mention Bane. Yep, this is it right here. Batman number 496. Die Laughing. We get we get more Joker and Scarecrow in this one. So I tab over to the synopsis for this one. Let's see. Synopsis for Die Laughing. After seeing the news report following Batman's apprehension of Firefly, claiming that Batman is looking particularly haggard, Joker suggests that he and Scarecrow take the opportunity to kill their enemy. Scarecrow is against the plan, though. Meanwhile, Batman speeds to Mayor's mansion to search for clues to his abduction by the Joker and Scarecrow. Detectives Bullock and Montoya are already on the scene, and despite the fact that 20 officers were killed by an explosion in our last attempt to find Kroll, Bullock decides to go in without the bomb squad's go-ahead. As he opens the front door, he discovers that he has tripped a wire, and Batman swoops down to save him moments before the building explodes, leaving no clues behind. Which is kind of odd because this Bullock sounds about as incompetent as the Bullock on the animated series. However, the Bullock they had in the live action Gotham series didn't seem that bumbling, that incompetent. Then what's interesting here is that we get a confrontation between Joker and Scarecrow. And Scarecrow hits Joker with some of his fear gas, which just pretty much amuses Joker because he's kind of immune to it. As I skip around on the synopsis. Let's see. Elsewhere, Bane admits that with more discipline, the team of Joker and Scarecrow could easily take over Gotham. However, he still believes that Batman could stop them both. And once he does, he will be forced to run Bane's gauntlet. There is Batman finally taking out Joker. All the while saying Jason. Scarecrow launching a missile at him. Looks like they get away, but Batman rescues the mayor, leading into Detective Comics 663, Knightfall, issue 10. No rest for the wicked. Once again, looks like back into the city sewers or escaping through a water canal or something. He hands the mayor over to the police. We get more confrontations with more baddies. This one is, what is this? This is the big one leading up to the last, well, not the last issue, but this leads up to a direct confrontation between Batman and Bane. Right there. As so I tab over to the next story synopsis. Let's see. As Batman's exhaustion makes him clumsy and less able to defend against Bird's attack. However, when Bird begins taunting him, claiming that he no longer believes, as Bane does, that Batman runs Gotham City, the Dark Knight finds new energy and batters Bird into giving up Bane's location. Unfortunately, Bird simply falls unconscious. Batman drives home to the Batcave, puts on his robe, and trudges upstairs to Wayne Manor. However, upon entering the manor, he discovers Alfred unconscious on the floor and Bane waiting for him. Ooh. Which, of course, leads into the biggest issue of the entire arc, is right here. The cover says it all. So after 10 issues of chaos orchestrated by Bane, we finally have the direct confrontation between Batman and Bane at Wayne Manor. They do some talking. I think at this point he essentially asks Bane what was the point of all of it. Still worn out, still tired, still exhausted. He puts his cowl cape back on and they go at it. But unfortunately, at this point, Bane is just too much for Batman. Probably even in his top physical peak, Batman would still have a hard time dealing with Bane. He pretty much dismantles Batman, throwing him around, trashing Wayne Manor. I think at that point, Alfred wakes up. And Bane is just having his way with Batman. Blow after blow. And this is it right there. He beats the crap out of him, lifts him above his head, and crack. And that was the end of the 11th part to Batman Knightfall 497. Go back to Detective Comics 664. Where Bane announces, "I am Bane, the city is mine." Picks him up, lifts him on top of a building, looks like downtown Gotham. Announces, "Here is your hero, your protector. Take him and bury him." And throws Batman off the top of the building, leaving him broken, battered on a sidewalk. The police arrive, then an ambulance arrives. The ambulance turns out to be Alfred and Robin, who quickly pick up Batman and whisk him away. The police are concerned at this point because essentially the criminals have run of the town with no Batman. We get a shot of Bruce Wayne pretty much out of it. Very much out of it. I think at this point he's unconscious and they're trying to decide what to do. And at this point, it's I think they turn the bat signal on. Jim Gordon turns the bat signal on to see who shows up, if anybody, and it turns out to be Robin. And then I think at the end, it's Azrael in costume. And it looks like Alfred, they're trying some new drug to see if it can help Bruce Wayne. And the hardest part here, they say, is the waiting. This was a huge storyline. I think I enjoyed this overall much more than Death of Superman. This was an involved storyline. Death of Superman wasn't bad, but over the years, it's been done and redone, adapted in so many different ways. This one hasn't been really touched on that much, I don't believe. I mean, aside from the comic books, of course, because like Wikipedia said, this storyline had ramifications all throughout the Batman comics. So I'm skipping ahead. Story synopsis. Here is Showcase 93, Volume 1, Issue 7. Quickly going down the synopsis. Robin, Alfred, and John Paul Valley stand over the broken, comatose form of Batman while administering the supposed miracle drug Decadron With nothing left to do but wait and hope their friend recovers, Robin regrets that he didn't stop Batman from pushing himself too hard much sooner, like 3 weeks earlier when they faced Two-Face. 3 weeks earlier, Two-Face, having escaped Arkham Asylum, returns to the old Gotham Municipal Courthouse. There he reflects on his perceived betrayal by Batman and uses his coin to decide that he should kill his former ally. However, he decides that he needs a group of enforcers to back him up in that plan. And it looks like so there they are, waiting, arguing. And I was unclear at this point if the drug worked enough for Batman to get up and put on his suit, which it looks like it did. There's Two-Face. We go through. It looks like Batman handles everything. Looks like more heroes show up to kind of help. Some craziness going on there. I don't know what that's about. And one of my kitties has woken up from their afternoon nap. So this is, what is this? This is Showcase 93 Two-Face number 8. Looks like Two-Face and Batman confront each other. They capture Batman. Guessing that mystery drug has worked enough to get Batman mobile. Nope, that was not Batman. That was that John Paul Valley? That's kind of weird. Because there's Batman still. All right. I know, the synopsis. Two-Face goons prepare to fish out Batman out of the Gotham River. In the Batcave, Robin searches on the Batcomputer for any information he can find that will help him locate Two-Face. Two-Face has dragged Batman to the roof of the old Gotham Municipal Courthouse in Old Town, the same place where Sal Boss Maroni disfigured him years ago. He holds a mock trial for Batman, denying him clemency or change of venue with the flip of his coin. Let's see. Robin appears and looses a rock with his sling into Two-Face's head. Despite Batman's warnings, Two-Face nearly falls to his death, but Batman lets himself drop, catches Two-Face, and then launches a grappling wire to swing to safety. As the police escort Two-Face away, Batman scolds Robin for his actions, which could have killed their enemy. 3 weeks later, as Batman lies broken and comatose, Robin continues to feel guilt that he didn't act sooner. He worries that if Batman never wakes up, the last memories of him would be his mentor blaming him for the wrong reasons. That's that one right there. My kitty cats have calmed back down. They started meowing some, which made me wonder if I was going to have to cut my live stream short. But I'll be able to make it through these. Hitting the 1 hour mark here. I want to thank you all again for joining me today as I go over the Batman Knightfall storyline spread across multiple books. What's left here is 15, chapter 15, 16, 17, 18, and then the confrontation between Azrael and Bane, which wraps it up with Batman number 500. Dun, 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 dun. This is Batman number 498. The synopsis for it is, while Alfred and Tim Drake look after the crippled Bruce Wayne, Bane wastes no time solidifying his place as leader of all criminal enterprises in Gotham City. He and his men cut a bloody swath through the town, gunning down all rival crime lords from dozens of underworld families. So yeah, he's going pretty roughshod over everything there. Bruce, obviously depressed, having faced another man squarely for the first time and lost, he feels he has failed his mission to protect Gotham. When he realizes that his back is broken, he declares that Bane has destroyed him. And it says right there, Gotham is his. As Bane's goons gun down more people. Here they have Robin and I guess Tim Drake go to work on one of Bruce's Porsches, crashing it, staging an car accident to explain where Bruce is, or to explain that Bruce has been in a car accident, thus breaking his back, to give him a cover for his injuries. Let's see. After Alfred, Tim, and John Paul Valley move Bruce from the Batcave into the master bedroom of the manor, they get to work destroying one of Bruce's Porsches as part of a cover story to explain his injuries. Meanwhile, Bane makes contact with Catwoman and offers her a position in his new empire. Catwoman doesn't care for Bane, but agrees to work with him, but not for him, on special assignments. Back at the manor, Bruce tells Tim that the legacy of Batman must continue. Tim wants to contact Nightwing, but Bruce claims Dick has his own responsibilities to look after. Instead, he chooses John Paul Valley to take his place on a condition that he should under no circumstances confront Bane. Tim brings John Paul a Batman costume, and the eager young man readily accepts the task. We got a nice panel right here with Bane declaring Gotham is mine. And they bring John Paul a Batman costume. And we get a first glimpse of John Paul in costume as Batman as they meet Commissioner Gordon. And the last panel in this comic is Bruce Wayne still at home in bed as he sees the bat signal out his bedroom window. Continuing on to Detective Comics 665. I mean, the cover says it all right there. This is where everybody sees how far John Paul goes and like goes to the extremes to take out bad guys. As the synopsis for this issue starts, Batman and Robin are out on the streets of Gotham City once more, but the man under Batman's cowl is actually John Paul Valley, whose methods are noticeably more brutal than those of the real Batman. When Robin tries to question John Paul's methods, the new Batman is dismissive. Back at Wayne Manor, Bruce Wayne is confined to a wheelchair and hopes to talk to the doctor, Chandra Kinsolving. He is told that she is just next door helping Tim's father, Jack Drake, who is also wheelchair bound. Bruce contemplates getting Alfred to give him a ride, but his friend is so exhausted from taking care of him that he chooses not to wake him. All right, and this is pretty neat. One thing I noticed is the art is pretty nice across these books. Pretty good art for Batman. Get yet another fight here. And I think we get to a point where, once again, Robin confronts the new Batman about his methods. And we have kind of John Paul Valley kind of snapping back at Robin, essentially telling him to back off. Continued on into Batman 499. Synopsis for the Venom Connection. While Robin worries about how violent and merciless, merciless, that word, John Paul Valley is being as a new Batman, John Paul cuts a deal with tough Tony Bressie, which leads him to Bane and gets Bressie's kids back. In the Batcave, a wheelchair-bound Bruce Wayne investigates the kidnapping of Jack Drake and Dr. Chandra. He performs a DNA test on one of the kidnappers' masks and discovers there is an intermingling of protozoans within the blood sample he took. He assumes the protozoans are related to having contracted malaria, but soon realizes the kidnapper was in fact vaccinated against it. Dun, 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 dun. Bird comes to Bane with concerns that the Batman is back and disrupting his plans to gain control over Gotham's crime syndicates. Bane angrily responds that this Batman is a pretender and knows that whoever this is, they don't pose a threat. When Bressie calls, agreeing to Bane's terms, he sends Bird and his other men to oversee the return of his children just in case the pretender appears. Bruce discovers the strain of malaria that the vaccine covers and has Oracle, who helps him trace it to Santa Presca. John Paul returns to find Bruce in the Batcave, and Bruce gives up the cave to him with the impression that his replacement is doing a good job. Bruce and Alfred make preparations to travel to Latin America. Let's see. They go through all that. So here we have John Paul pretty much in complete control of the Batcave. And he does some kind of sketches where he comes up with a new gauntlet for his armor, which looks even more intimidating than he's ever looked before. So slowly he alters the appearance of Batman. And once again, it looks like Robin is starting to question him, and he says, "Never again, Boy Wonder, never again." As the synopsis goes, Robin resolves to tell Bruce that John Paul can't be trusted, but arrives in the cave only to find John Paul himself. And then that Bruce and Alfred are gone. When he returns home to Drake Manor, he finds a note from Alfred saying that they are looking for his father, who was kidnapped in a previous issue. So we're getting close to the end of the Knightfall saga because this is Detective Comics 666. We have the new Batman, or John Paul Valley, and the guise of Batman with some new gauntlets that he created as he's swinging around town. I believe he's getting close to where Bane is. Breaks in, pretty much demands Bane. And then finally, they meet. John Paul meets Bane. Bane says, "You again, the pretender." He says, "I'm no pretender, Bane. I'm the Batman, the only Batman you need to worry about." Bane says, "You are nothing. I'll destroy you as easily as I did Bruce Wayne. Easier." And he says, "You didn't come to Gotham for Wayne. You came for the Batman. The mantle is mine now, Bane. You'll have to start all over again. You can't beat me because I'm better than you, stronger than you." And Bane says, "That can be adjusted." As they go on, get into a long, drug out brawl there. And it looks like for every time John Paul Batman gets a punch in, Bane is able to counter it, which is pretty interesting because Bane can adapt his fighting style up to the point where Bane gets the best of him and pretty much tosses him off over here, where he says, "Even in his debilitated condition, your mentor lasted longer than this. Perhaps if you had more time to temper your skills." In the next issue, the new Batman. This pretty much concludes right here with issue 500 of Batman. This came in two different covers. We have the regular cover of the new Batman armor, the new John Paul Valley Batman. And then this alternate cover, which was like a die cut cover. We open that up and we get a nice spread. Got some foil going on here, maybe a little embossment. I mean, it is Batman 500, so you got to do something special, something spiffy here. Does not a wraparound cover. Oh, speaking of the death of Superman, so we get past the die cut bifold gimmick cover, which is actually kind of nice. We got a nice little card right there. Oh, that is a postcard. You can actually tear that out if you want to and mail it off to somebody. Or you collectors will probably just keep it in place. It says Dark Angel, The Fall, Part 1. So a little confrontation between the new Batman and Bane as they continue on. I think they get to a point where Bane escapes, or John Paul has to concede or something, or he escapes and John Paul isn't able to follow him. I'll pull up the synopsis for this last issue very quickly here. Dun, 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 Batman dangles precariously from a window washing trolley, with Bane using his own bat shuriken to fray the rope, keeping him from falling to his death. Unfortunately, the rope snaps when his grapple finds no purchase. Desperately trying to slow his fall, John Paul kicks out from the wall, hoping to make it to the fountain in the middle of the atrium. The water in the fountain is shallow, but does little to break the fall. Batman is injured and weakened, giving Bane an opportunity to escape without being chased. Later, Robin arrives in the Batcave to find John Paul trying to stretch out his injuries. Robin makes another attempt to convince John Paul that he's being too brutal. John Paul claims that his fighting fire with fire by meeting them on their level. More of the line of thought to fight a monster, you have to become a monster. according to John Paul. Tim refuses to be a party of this new Batman's way of doing things, and John Paul is unconcerned while his erstwhile partner leaves. He uses his time alone to let himself be taken by the mental programming of the Sacred Order of St. Damas to design a new bat suit. Elsewhere, a wounded Bane sneaks into the location where his henchmen have been detained, demanding to know where he can find Venom to help him heal and feel no pain. He refuses to break his men out, saying that this new Batman is his to destroy. Robin broods outside Wayne Manor when he is interrupted by Nightwing. Nightwing is annoyed to have heard from Oracle that Bruce Wayne was injured rather than Bruce himself. He is further annoyed to hear that Bruce chose John Paul to replace him rather than himself. Despite his lack of desire for the role, Robin blames himself for John Paul's turn to violence, wondering if he somehow aggravated his susceptibility to the system. Nightwing states that because Bruce chose John Paul, they must abide by his decision. Robin vows silently to make one more attempt to appeal to his former friend's good sense. In Santa Prisca, Bruce and Alfred discuss the possible positive influence of Dr. Chandra on Bruce as Batman in the weeks leading up to his defeat by Bane. Alfred tries to reassure Bruce that his defeat was not a failure, but he will not hear of it. Regardless, they try to remain focused on their plan to rescue Chandra and Jack Drake from their kidnappers. Back in Gotham City, Bane breaks into the control room for the giant LED message board in Gotham Square, kills the controller, and prepares to make a statement. Meanwhile, Robin returns to the Batcave to find John Paul gone. He happens to see one of John Paul's drawing and is taken aback by what he sees. Which is this panel right here is like where he's saying, "You've got to be kidding." We go into this is a thick issue right here. We go into part 2, The Descent, as we get John Paul's new Batman costume. A Batman costume that's probably more to his liking, more to his version of Batman. You get the confrontation between the new Batman and Bane, round 2. Which is like a knockout, drag-out fight, even more so than before. Looks like John Paul has him on the run. The art in this issue is really good. And we get the last few pages for this storyline where we have John Paul Valley finally defeating Bane. Bane is practically begging him to kill him. All the while, everybody's going, is he going to do it or is he not? Is he going to kill him or not? Bane continues begging Batman, kill me, Batman. And finally, John Paul Valley relents, saying, no, you're broken, Bane. Blackgate Prison can hold the pieces. Everybody's kind of relieved by that. He's beaten Bane, but he's not going to kill him. He's not going to go all the way to the extreme. And Robin comes down and says, I still don't like the way you do things, but they get done. At least you didn't give in at the end. That makes me wrong about one thing. You have earned it, earned the right, earned the costume, new or old. I guess you are the Batman. He turns and leaves and says simply, thanks, kid. So we get another postcard here in this issue with the new Batman. So we had the Bruce Wayne Batman here. This postcard, we get the John Paul Batman right there. So yeah, of all the crazy storylines for Batman, this was probably the biggest one yet. It was easily comparable to the death of Superman. It was comparable to been quite a few storylines out there for Batman, but to me, this is the one that stuck out the most because it really showed that somebody with both brain and brawn could orchestrate a series of events in and around Gotham to essentially wear down Bruce Wayne, Batman, get him exhausted, get him demoralized, and then essentially crush Bruce Wayne, crush Batman. It was a good storyline. It's a shame that we've never gotten this adapted in, say, animation or live action. You look at the death of Superman, and there's little hints of Doomsday and like the Superman TV shows, like Superman and Lois. Doomsday has been adapted, I want to say twice in the animated series, either Justice League or at least two of the Superman standalone animation series. But to my knowledge, we've never had this storyline adapted to any other medium. Now, it's been a while since I've kept up with Batman in live action. I haven't seen it and well, anything out there, not in like the Titans TV show, certainly not that Gotham TV show, the uh, Batman show without Batman. I mean, that show is good in some points, but disappointing in others. Will we ever get this adapted? I could see this in maybe like a 2 or 2.5 hour movie, maybe a little 6-part mini series, because it is quite involved. It does have a lot of moving pieces to it, a lot of characters going on. I mean, it does introduce the character of John Paul Valley, I guess taking place way before the events of Batman 492 here. So you got to deal with the introduction of that character. You got to deal with the introduction of Bane. Uh, Bane orchestrating the escape of all the Arkham Asylum prisoners happens in Batman 491, kind of a precursor to this. So yeah, going back to what Ray Lucard said, it's too bad we didn't get an animated version of this. Yeah, with the casting of Batman, the animated series, that would have been a great adaptation. Let's see, I've been rambling on here for not quite, a little over an hour and a half. And go ahead and end it here. I got some other things I might save for next Saturday, next comic book Saturday. But this was a nice storyline. This was quite quite a big deal at the time. This was the second biggest storyline right behind the death of Superman, which, in my opinion, was kind of overblown. I mean, when you look at the death of Superman, that's technically not the first time Superman has died. He's going by memory. I want to say the character was quote unquote killed twice before in the comic books and brought back. So that was like the second or third time Superman has been killed. It's just the first time that a big deal was made about that particular storyline. I mean, it was silly. Even made like I even saw it on the evening news. I guess depending on where you were, you might have seen it reported in the evening news as well. Like, ooh, the death of Superman news at 11. I can tell you, working in a comic book store, I had people lined up at my cash register, going out the front door, down the sidewalk, and around the block just to pick up that issue of Superman where he fights Doomsday and dies. So yeah, it was a huge media event. People were also buying these books. People were also buying Knightfall and all the issues surrounding it. It was interesting. I would say of the two storylines, I liked this one a lot better because I kind of like Batman a little bit more than I like Superman. It seems like over the years, Superman's become a bit more overpowered. I haven't kept up with it in easily decades, but I tried looking up Superman recently, and it's like, oh, he's got new powers, new abilities. It's like, how many more new powers and new abilities does Superman need? It's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But this has been fun, everyone. I'm going to, let's see, what am I going to do here? Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to go here. And that, let's see. Before I wrap things up, I always want to go back into my chat and thank you all for joining me today. Hope I haven't bored you too much. Hello, Ray Lucard, first one out of the gates. Followed by Dad Man Walking. Anybody else out there that you've been lurking and whatnot, I want to thank you again for joining me today or catching me on a replay. Let's see, what else will I be doing? Monday is like a completely random live stream. Wednesday, I have not decided on a topic for discussion on my Wednesday night live stream. And of course, Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm usually on Comic Relief Crusaders channel. And then next Saturday, I will think of some interesting comic book related topic to discuss next Saturday. I've got some comic books I can go through. It might even be something like, I don't know yet. I'll find something. All right, this has been enjoyable. I've enjoyed sharing with you all this great Batman storyline, Knightfall, as I gather all the books together and thump them on the desk here. Let's see. Dad Man Walking. Have a great day. Some really nice stuff. Thank you. Very cool. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. And with that, everyone, I will leave you to the rest of your Saturday. Hope you have a great Saturday afternoon and evening. With that, see you all next time.